Hey guys, so in our last session or my last recording, I left you with this question. Does a work of art have to have a physical object? Does there have to be something that you can go to a gallery and see or go out to a place and see? Obviously, Spiral Jetty, that spiral in the middle of the Great Salt Lake, is not in a gallery, but there's still a physical object. The earthworks that you guys made over the weekend, um, they don't exist anymore. They probably got destroyed in last night's thunderstorm, but there was a physical object. So now the question is, does there have to be a physical object in order for it to be art? Some examples where there is no physical object, obviously, a music performance, right? There is no physical object. It is um, the time that you are listening to the music. Dance is another one where there is no physical object. Um, but what about visual art and fine art, like the ones that we've been looking at? Does there have to be a physical object? And the topic for this week, which I think you're going to like, it's definitely weird, um, is performance art. And this is when artists, instead of making a thing to be in a gallery or be outside, they are directing a show. They are directing and creating some kind of performance. And the example I brought in is one from last week. This is Ana Mendieta's fire pieces, where she would basically set a female body shape on fire, record it on video, and then that would be the artwork. The artwork is the video of this fire. I'll be honest, you guys, I don't exactly remember where we where we were when we shifted to online. But you might remember this artist. These are his drawings, and he makes his drawings using gunpowder. He lays the gunpowder out on large panels. You can see the different panels. Here's one, here's another one, here's another one. He lays the gunpowder out on panels, and then he explodes the gunpowder. And the result is this drawing. This drawing looks like it's made of charcoal, but it's actually made of exploded gunpowder. So this artist, Sai, started to think about, well, what if the artwork wasn't the finished gunpowder drawing that you hang in a museum? What if the artwork was the explosion? What if the artwork was the performance of the explosion? And that's the direction that his artwork starts to go, is choreographing these explosion events, basically. And here's one that you'll see on the website. Again, it is an example of performance art. And the thing to remember about performance art is the art piece is not a tangible object. It's a show or a performance, a moment in time designed and executed by the artist. Performance pieces are often site-specific. They don't have to be, but they are often site-specific. Remember, Spiral Jetty is site-specific because it has to be in the Great Salt Lake to make sense, because it's about the spiral-shaped salt in the Great Salt Lake. In the same way, the memorial to USS Arizona in Pearl Harbor makes more sense because it's right over the ship. So this is one of his performance art pieces. You'll see, basically, it's a very, very tall flaming ladder. Sai had been working on this for some time, about 15 to 20 years. He wanted to take his explosives and make it such that he would have a fully illuminated, like, flaming ladder all at once. And he kept running into these problems. The problem he ran into first was he wanted to do it in Los Angeles. He wanted to do it in Los Angeles. And it happened to be the year of September 11th. And the Los Angeles government just became uncomfortable with this idea of this artist coming and basically making this exploding ladder following the September 11th explosions, which we can understand. The next problem he had was a few years later. He was going to bring, I can't remember where, Singapore, Shanghai, something like that. and I don't remember exactly. I think the town begins with the letter S. And anyway, he ran into the day he was going to do it. The weather was bad, so he couldn't do it. Obviously, you have to have exactly the right weather conditions in order to pull this off. Just like you guys learned with earthworks, weather really impacts how your earthwork is going to turn out. If it's really windy, stuff is going to blow over. So he kind of put this idea on hold since he kept running into these roadblocks. And then finally, in the year 2015, his grandmother who lived in his home village of China, got very sick and probably wasn't going to live until the end of the year. And his grandmother actually hadn't seen any of his explosion events because she lived in China and he had moved to New York City. And she wasn't able to travel to New York City. So she hadn't seen any of them live. She had probably seen them by video. So he said, forget all the red tape. Forget all of this. I'm going to go back to my home village in China. And I'm going to make my flaming ladder, sky ladder. I'm going to make it right outside my grandmother's home in my home village so she can just walk outside and see it. And then she will have seen live one of my explosion events before she dies. And he did it. He went to his home village in China. He got everything set up. Everybody in town helped him get the flaming ladder ready to go, the exploding sky ladder. You can see it is held aloft by a weather balloon. It is aluminum tubes that are very light, filled with explosives. That's how he was able to pull it off. The problem was, right before he was going to do it, his grandmother got so ill that she could not remain at home and she had to go to a hospital. So he was able to pull it off, but his grandmother wasn't able to see it live. She watched it on an iPad in her hospital room and ended up passing away a month later. It could be argued then that Sky Ladder is a site-specific work because it at the beginning, it was about making the sky ladder. At the end, it was about making a sculpture that his grandmother could see live. And that became the point. He had kind of put this project on the back burner, and then he took it out of the back burner and put it on the front burner when his grandmother was sick. And he did it where his grandmother could see it. Even though she couldn't see it live, she did see it. She was on the phone with him when it was going off. People didn't even know about that this had even happened until somebody uploaded a video of it. The artist uploaded a video of it on YouTube, which you will be able to see. So you're also going to see another explosion event by the artist. It is the opening of an art center called Ninth Wave. The explosion event is called Ninth Wave, but it's named after this art center. This work, Marina Abramovic is probably the most famous performance artist. Her performance art pieces do two things at once. They test Marina and they force Marina to have an incredible amount of endurance. Think about the kind of endurance that you need to run a marathon. That is the kind of endurance you need to have to be in one of Marina's pieces. But the endurance isn't physical endurance. It's more like mental endurance. Yeah, that's what it is. It's like mental endurance. It's pushing herself to do things she couldn't thought possible. At the same time, her pieces also don't just push herself, but they also always ask a question. And I ask this here. They ask a question of the people participating in the performance, and they ask a question about society in general. And that's what makes Marina's work, especially to me, particularly interesting, because she's an artist, but she also becomes kind of like a sociologist, asking these questions about human nature and society. This is an early piece by Marina Abramovic. It's called Rhythm Zero. And in this piece, you will hear about it in the video, but in this piece, Marina laid out 72 objects on a table in the Metropolitan Museum of Art and put up a sign. There are 72 objects. I am an object, I meaning Marina, and for 6 hours you can do whatever you want with these objects. So it invited the audience to participate in the sculpture and to manipulate and use these objects. And Marina was an object too. And for 6 hours, she would basically just put up with. Sorry, guys, I just got a text message from my friend who wants to go grocery shopping with me. I am obviously recording this thing. I'm going to pause this. Okay. So basically there were these objects on the table, and the audience was invited to manipulate the objects and manipulate Marina for 6 hours. And you can see that some objects are rope, there were flowers, there were chains, there was a bullet and a pistol, there was a knife, there was all kinds of things. You're going to watch a video about this, but I want you to think about the question that Marina was asking of the people that were participating in this piece. And also the idea of Marina pushing herself to take whatever the public dished out and not respond to it. As she says in the video, she was basically like a puppet. Okay, so this is another piece by Marina. In 2010, you can see she's a lot older. This is her over here. And it's another piece when she's testing herself and also kind of trying to ask a question of the audience. Every day, Marina would come to the Museum of Modern Art, sit in this chair at this table. For 2 months she did this, and for the entire length that the gallery was open each day, which is like, I don't know, 10 to 6. And for all day, she would have people that were standing in line, just random gallery guests, gallery visitors, museum visitors. They could stand in line and they could sit across from Marina, and she would just look them in the face and try to be present with them for the 2 or 3 or 4 minutes that they sat next to her. I think they got to decide. I think they got to come up and sit as long as they wanted. And the idea was that Marina would be present with them and present for the entire day, the entire length of the day with all of these people. And the question she was trying to answer, here we are in this society, and how often are you not totally present? Maybe you're not totally present when you're listening to this. Maybe you're not present because you're thinking about the text messages that you're getting from your friend, or what else you would rather be doing than listening to me blab on and on and on. But we are generally not totally present with our friends, with our partners, with our whoever we are, because we're distracted. And the whole thing she was trying to address is, could she be not distracted? Could she be fully and completely present for all of these random strangers that were coming up and sitting across from her for this amount of time, for 2 months? That's the question that she was asking, is could she be present in the midst of a society that wasn't totally present? Nick Cave is another one that you'll see in the video, and this video is actually very good, so I'm not going to go into too much detail about it. But Nick Cave's sound suits are these basically like costumes that he hand makes with some assistance. He hand sews them, and they are sculptural, but he also does these really awesome performances in the sound suits. The sound suits make sound, but they also look neat when you're moving around. And you'll hear about in the video what was the inspiration for the sound suits. That the sound suits are fun and they're colorful and they're pretty and they're neat, but they actually started from a dark place, which was Nick Cave's experience of being the only African American man at his graduate school. He was the only African American man at Cranbrook School of Art, and he happened to be in graduate school at the time of the Rodney King beatings and the LA riots. Rodney King was a victim of police brutality, an African-American man that was brutally beaten up by police in 1992. And that event, in combination with Nick Cave being the only African-American man at his graduate school, made him feel very, very vulnerable. And so he designed these costumes, as he says, to quote him, as a kind of suit of armor to protect himself from, to protect his identity, to protect his outward appearance from other people. Now they have another kind of, they enable the wearer to transcend race, sex, class. So you are wearing a sound suit and nobody really knows who you are. So I hope you enjoyed looking at the sound suits. Oh, here's another view of the sound suit. So the sound suits can be worn in these awesome performances, but they also can be in a gallery. So I guess there is a physical object, and he uses all kinds of random stuff to make the sound suits, as you'll see in the video. He goes thrift store shopping and antique mall shopping, and he finds stuff that he uses in the sound suits. I love this sound suit. This is a sound suit that is made entirely of purses and handbags that he bought at a thrift store. He also makes sound suits out of toys, old-fashioned toys that he finds in thrift stores, and sometimes little decorative items. Again, they're colorful and they're fun and they're pretty to look at, but they come from a place of Nick Cave feeling very exposed and very vulnerable, and how he dealt with that through his art. So this is the final piece that you will be looking at. It's my personal favorite. I learned about it last year at my Art 111 classes field trip to the Nasher Museum. Kanupa Hengsa is a Native American artist who grew up on the Standing Rock Reservation in North Dakota. Well, the Standing Rock Reservation was the place where the Keystone XL pipeline, which is a pipeline to bring tar sands, crude oil from the tar sands in Canada down to Louisiana. Well, this gigantic pipeline to bring this crude oil from Canada to Louisiana was supposed to go through the Standing Rock Reservation, which is where Kanupa Hengsa grew up. It is a Native American reservation, and it is against a variety of laws related to Native American reservations to bring the pipeline through this particular reservation. If there was ever a spill, there are commonly oil spills, as you know, it would be disastrous to this particular reservation, and really anywhere else that there was a spill. So Kanupa Hengsa decided to use his artwork to protest the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. He gathered people from his reservation as well as people from the general public, people from all over the country who were opposed to the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. And he brought them to Standing Rock, and he made them all these mirrors. The mirrors are plywood with film on top. It looks like glass. It's not glass. Glass is breakable. Glass could hurt somebody. And the whole point of these mirrors is that they are not a weapon. They are they're not meant to hurt people. They are meant to shine their reflection on them. He thought that if the people countering the protesters saw their own reflection and what they were going to do, that maybe they would think about the ramifications of their actions. It was, honestly, I thought it was a beautiful statement. He was inspired by protest actually in Ukraine. And so you will see in the video, you'll see the water protectors with their mirror shields. Remember, they're not weapons. They can't hurt anybody. It's film. It's film like you get on the back of a helium balloon. And then the other cool thing is he made the video of how to make the mirror shields so that anybody could just go to Home Depot and make a bunch of mirror shields and send them to the effort. So in the same way that right now people are making masks and sending them to healthcare workers and essential workers, you could be at home and you could make a mirror shield and you could send it to the water protectors and send it to the effort at Standing Rock. And I just find that so powerful. And I think that the dances and the things that they were doing is really beautiful. It was so beautiful that I was ready to drive to North Dakota and and help with the effort, except that North Dakota is really cold and I have a job. Anyway, this is the last of, I think it is, this is the last of the pieces. I really look forward to you um, thinking about which is your favorite. Make sure in your answer to think about these questions. This one is the most important. Where is the art? When we think of art, we usually think of a physical object. These don't have a physical object. Where is the art? What is the art? Is it a valid art form? Okay, that's all I've got for you.